welcome. You're watching the Policy Times, India's only media which has been tirelessly doing developmental journalism. After every episode, we come up with a conclusion that what to be brought in to give a direction in a particular sector. COVID-19 is a massive crisis that we also how the entire country has been suffering and the entire world. As Dr.P.Sekhar often says, it's a World War III without a bullet. Now, a lot of things have been impacted. Sports is not an exception. Sports equally has been massively impacted. We saw how a lot of big sports companies, especially in the West, their valuation has gone down. But things are not over. It is just a reincarnation. There's a need of just another reincarnation. Post-COVID, many things will come back and may bring many new opportunities. I do not want to, and I'm really thrilled, excited that we have, again, coming on the point that Olympic is a dream for India, a country with 1.35 billion population. Winning Olympic medal is a dream. And when we are talking about sports, we can't miss Olympic and the man, the legend who has really made the country proud is with us today to talk on the impact of COVID on sports and how to recover from it. Padma Bhushan awardee, Sri Abhinav Bindra, Olympic gold medalist, and a trendsetter for national excellence in sports and healthcare, is with us today. Dr.P.Sekhar is the chair of the session. He's a renowned personality in the field of education, entrepreneurship, strategy, and he has been a true pillar in promoting business industry in the country. He's also an architect in the of the concept called secured governance. We also have with us Cdr Rajesh sir, who is again a marine submarine engineer and an international expert on skydiving and extreme adventure sports. Without taking any more time, I want to welcome and request Dr. Sekhar to kindly say a few words and introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Akram. This is the 20th session. We started it with a earnest that something good has to be brought to the system because things were all looking dull. COVID, which, like you said, I always say this is World War III without bullets. But today we have an expert who has gone, he has won Olympics with a bullet, which is very interesting. So, and this is the bullet which is welcome bullet, not the other bullet, bullet which shoots people. So in COVID era, we are into a different lifestyle. You know, everything looks bad, dull. Even the right hand is afraid of touching the left hand. Today, brothers are afraid of meeting each other. I do not know when people will say even the husband wife cannot meet each other, cannot touch each other, where we cannot touch our children. I only hope it doesn't come to that level. I'm sure, good days are going to come. Now, good days have to come in various facets of life. In various sectors, we are dreaming things will be good. When we say 20 session, it was on each sector. Now, sports is something which has to go in a very, very different dimension. Fortunately for us, maybe because we have arranged the show, only yesterday government has announced that even yoga and gymnast can start, which means some of the sports we are talking can start. Abhinav Bindra can be in a different format. Because sports is something which has to be built in our life. Sports is not something only for the spectators. So because of COVID, if spectators cannot come, why can't a sportsman go and play in Gymkhana, which we are not able to understand? Because he may not touch anybody. If two players play badminton, why should there be any COVID restriction? It automatically comes that they are not going to be near each other. But restrictions are restrictions. Government has got its own priorities. I have been part of government. So I know that when you sit on that chair, there are so many other compulsions which come when a rule is being made. But I'm sure those rules are going to be relaxed. Now, today we have got one of the most powerful sports personality, Abhinav Bindra. He has won so many awards, 150 awards. It is mind-blowing, okay. And he has spent almost 22 years, and there is no award in his field where he has not excelled in the world, and which brings a huge amount of prideness to all Indians. Because in sports, we are not whatever we should be. Okay. So he has to be the torchbearer, and he is. And I'm sure in the next decades, he will really bring more. And this title also credit goes to him. He only suggested that it should not be sports alone. It should be how Olympics could be a powerhouse for India sports. So we dream big. In fact, in my own field of software, I was the one who said India should be a super power for software. And now, whatever we are today is there. Now, he will make India hopefully a superpower in sports. And sports is something which is going in all the dimensions, in all the aspects of life. It is not restricted to any single activity. There's indoor, there is outdoor. And in the second half, we have got our extreme sports person, Rajesh. He will have a lot of things to tell. And without taking much more time, I would like Bindra initially to say at least few words about your personal life, which we all know, but I thought public should know from you. And then Akram has got a series of questions which are very interesting. He has coined it specifically for you, so that you can participate and enlighten people regarding the glorious ways in which you are trying to bring Indian sports to a global level. Thank you, Abhinav.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm very happy to be part of it. I had a long career in sport. It lasted 22 years. I had a fair share of victories. I failed more times than I succeeded. But now that I have exited my investment, so to say, now that I'm retired from sport, I can see things more clinically and more dispassionately. And when I look back at my long time spent in sport, what I really look back
Yeah.
wall in one of the rooms of my house, but what I look back at is the journey that I had. Sport is a wonderful teacher in life. Sport is unique, extremely unique in many ways, because it teaches us how to win. More importantly, it teaches us how to lose. It teaches us how to play by the rules. It teaches us integrity. It teaches us the necessity to work hard. And these are the learnings that I had on the field of play, and the exact learnings what I had on the field of play I take back to my second life now. An athlete's life cycle is very unique, because we almost have two lives. We have our sporting career, which is for a certain period of time, and then post our sporting career, we have to start off completely new and completely afresh, in a new way. And that is exactly what I've been doing. And that's exactly what my life has been post the 2016 Olympic Games. And that's what my life has been. And it's been the journey of my sporting career has been something which I look back with a great degree of fondness, and had tremendous learnings in it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for the introduction. Wonderful to have you as an athlete, as a celebrity for the country, as a real son of India. So my first question I want to know for our viewers is that what is your opinion? How do you see that? What is the level of impact that COVID-19 has brought in these sports, and how is the sports world is actually handling resuming the activities? How can the sport world come back to normalcy?
Well, it has been tremendously impacted. COVID has impacted everything in life. Sport has definitely not been spared. For the first time in the history of the Olympic movement, and Olympic Games has been postponed. There was a cancellation once due to a world war, and this is only the first time that there has been a postponement of the Olympic Games, which is extremely rare. All Olympic competition and Olympic qualification competition since the period of March has been suspended, and no sporting competitions have been happening ever since that time. And we do not see that sporting competitions, at least Olympic qualifications, will resume at least till the end of the year. Even more than that, what has really impacted athletes is the lockdowns, which have been there in various parts of the world through the various times, have also meant that athletes have not been in a position to train as they normally would be training, which has been a tremendously difficult time for athletes, because athletes live a very active life, be it competing, be it training, and that obviously has come to a complete halt. So it has obviously taken, apart from a physical toll on the athlete and their performance, but I think it has been mentally as well very, very trying, a trying time for the athlete community. But I think the positive part is that the athlete community is probably the most resilient community that I've ever come across in the world, and are taking this situation in their stride. They are acting responsibly as responsible global citizens, in, of course, the containment of the virus as well. All decisions related to sporting activities have been taken with two principles taken into mind. It is the health and the safety of all athletes and all people involved in the whole sporting ecosystem. And the second principle, which is guiding the sport, at least the Olympic world, is being acting in a responsible way for the containment of the virus. Having said that, some time has passed. We've been 4 or 5 months into this pandemic, and looking ahead, I don't see this situation changing anytime soon, until there is a sustainable solution achieved for this problem. But that also means that life has to, at some point or the other, go on. And when life goes on, sport obviously has an important part, plays an important part in lives of many, many people. And sporting, and as we've been seeing of late, slowly but surely, sporting action is slowly resuming across the world, be it in a training environment, or be it even in certain countries in a competitive environment. We've had some competitions being held in the US and elsewhere without spectators, and stuff like that. So I think slowly but surely there is people, the sporting world and the sporting community also has to learn to adapt, which we slowly are adapting to the new normal. And that will be the way things will be for a little while, but eventually we all hope that things will come back to normal as they were, and sporting action can resume the way that is, and people, athletes can experience the thrill of sport, as well as spectators who watch sport can go out there and experience the sheer thrill of watching a sporting competition.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned that a lot of countries are coming and resuming sports. What would be your advice, and what do you think? When is the right time to resume sports activity in a country like India? And then, what are the safety nets that we should keep in mind?
Well, obviously, I am definitely not a medical expert to give solid advice, but what I would like to say on this is that we are already seeing certain sporting activity resume in India. We have had um, certain Olympic training camps starting to resume, or are in the process of resumption, in a highly sanitized sort of manner, where only the sporting competition or sporting training is resuming for the Olympic probables or the Olympic team, which will compete in the Olympics, which will now be held next year. So that, I think, is a welcome sign that under highly sanitized scenario, under strict precautionary measures being taken and undertaken, at least the training of these athletes is starting to happen. And I think that is right. That is the right way to go. At least start the training for the elite level, which is a small number. We are going into Tokyo. We will not have more than 100 odd athletes in all sports taking part. So I think it is definitely possible to make safe arrangements, to resume at least training for these number of athletes. Of course, the larger sporting action and the larger bits of training will still take time to resume, as we see the COVID situation, engulfed almost every part of the country. There are certain places where it's going down, but in a lot of places, it's going up. So it is, it will have to, you'll have to, calls and decisions, I think, will have to be taken depending on the location of athletes, location of the training environments and the training centers, depending what the situation is in that particular city. And I think a single rule cannot apply for the whole country. Um, I think what is important to note is that one will have to have that flexibility to establish those rules, and different cities, different states will have to come up with their own regulations depending on the situation of that particular state or that particular city. But slowly and surely, there are certain sports which are safer than others to resume training. For example, the sport of shooting is a non-contact sport, so there is a fair degree of safety. There is always a distance between shooting athletes, which has always been maintained. That distance can be increased for higher safety measures to be undertaken. So I think those sports will also have to be divided into various categories, and seeing which are safer to resume. And that is, I think, already being done. And I think the Sports Authority of India is taken quite a lead in this whole scenario, and has established certain standard operating procedures, which are being put into play in the various training environments, in the various stadiums, and in the various sports. So, all in all, in conclusion, what I'd like to say is that, sooner or later things will have to resume. Let's start slow. Let's be conservative, but let's make those baby steps towards the resumption of at least training. And once things improve, then one can look at the whole competitive sort of an environment.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have seen in history that a lot of sports stars have struggled a bit. Now, during the or post-COVID crisis, there are a lot of uncertainties, and a lot of athletes are losing motivation. How would they deal with this coming uncertainty and demotivation that is coming to them, and they can recharge themselves to come back now to normalcy?
Well, I think uncertainty is something which is part and parcel of an athlete's career, because we are always uncertain about the eventual result. We never know how competition is going on. An athlete's life is all about adapting to situations. We are always adapting to a very dynamic environment, and certain times in a sporting competition can never be scripted. You cannot break it down into black and white. There is always some variable which comes into the equation which you have not anticipated, and you need that degree of adaptability and flexibility in both technical execution as well as your mindset to be able to overcome those challenges. So I do believe that athletes do possess those skills required to overcome this challenge which the whole world is facing. I think we have that mental ability, and we just have to, I think, we have to make use of the skills required, which we do already possess. I think adaptability is one big thing. I think also the other thing is acceptance. I think when we are in these difficult moments, what normally human tendency is, and which is not just athlete centric, but just human tendency, is to resist the situation to a great degree, because it's an uncomfortable position that we are all being put into, and that just makes that cycle worse for us in our own mind. So I think the most important first step is that acceptance in mindset that this is a unique situation that is not just affecting me or you, but the entire world. And with that acceptance, I think it just brings you back, gives you that mental space required to deal with this current situation. But I do feel that I think it's important for athletes to keep their mind focused and their mind sharp. And I think this is a great opportunity to maybe utilize the time which is in hand to maybe pick up a new hobby, or maybe pick up a new skill outside the field of play. Maybe do a short course on something, or maybe pick up something that you've never had the time to do. That's just something which will keep your mind stimulated. It will keep your mind interested in something, and it will not make your mind stale. And I think that is a very important aspect that everybody should be looking at least the athlete community, so that when they eventually do come back to training and competition, which eventually will happen, they do come back with that renewed energy, and they do come back with that renewed hunger to go back to full scale training or full scale competition. But in order to do that, it's very important to keep your mind sharp and your mind fresh in these uncertain and difficult times. And I think the solution there is to maybe find those solutions from outside your regular field of play.
Thank you, sir. I have now a very serious question. You have been like sharing excellent views on all the topics and issues that we are discussing, sir. Little serious question that you have already mentioned that we need to see the positivity out of this picture. Now, certainly there are many athletes and many uh, thinkers are thinking that there can be also a positive outcome out of the crisis that we are into. So the new normal that we look forward to see post COVID, can India, I'm clubbing two, three questions. Can India be the world's sports landscape post COVID? If we aim so, then what should be the role of the government post COVID? Because we are certainly observing a disruption. So, post disruption, if India has really have to aim to be a really sporting global hub, then what should be the role of government? What should be the role of media? What should be the role of different stakeholders who play active, inactive, direct, indirect part in the game?
Well, I think to make India a sporting powerhouse will require time, and it will require sustained efforts, persistent efforts, determination from all stakeholders involved in running sport, involved in the whole sporting movement in India, to achieve those goals. And the goal can firstly just start from a very fundamental level. We are all so obsessed at times with outcomes, and we are so obsessed with the number of medals that we would want to win. But nobody is really talking about how are we going to get there. I think it is all about establishing the right processes which will get us to us becoming a sporting nation and a sporting powerhouse. And the fundamental start is we need more people to actually just go out there and get involved in a sporting activity. Just we need more people, more of our population, more of our younger population, because we have such a young demographic, to go out there and get involved in sporting activity, not for the sake of winning Olympic gold medals, but just for the sake of playing sport, for the sheer joy of playing sport. When we have families taking to sporting activity as a form of entertainment and as a form of family bonding, and take up sport as a social activity, that is when the real change will be triggered. It will, of course, make our society a more sporting society, and all the great lessons that sport has to offer will filter in down into society and make our sport, our country, and our people a much more sporting people in our mindsets. But it will also eventually lead us to more people getting involved in elite level sport, because we all talk about our large population, but we never ever give out the figures of how many people out of this large population are actually involved in elite level sport. That number is very, very small. So until and unless we don't get that number higher, and we don't give that our people the opportunity to go out and play sport, those are those changes which need to happen. We need to make our grassroots level sport much more stronger in its base. We need to get science and technology filter into our grassroots level, be it for talent identification, be it for training of our athletes, because the world is moving at such a fast pace, and newer ways of identifying talent, newer ways of training athletes are coming into the picture. and we cannot be left behind. So we need all those systems and processes to filter down into our grassroots level systems, and we need to bring together a process which identifies talent at a very basic level, and then find and build a system which nurtures this talent right from a district level up to say an elite level. Those steps and those processes need to be clearly identified and put into place. We often talk about um, people making a big difference in the landscape of Indian sport, but we have to move away from just a good sports minister coming in and making a few good decisions. We have to move away from just a couple of good bureaucrats coming in and making good decisions for sport. What we really need to make is make our organizations and our institutions so strong that it is not dependent on just a couple of good people making these good choices, but those systems and those processes need to come into these organizations, which make the whole system and running of sport much more efficient. It needs to play a greater role in grassroots level sport, and of course, we need to really focus on science and technology. Without the use of science and technology, we will never be able to match our aspirations until and unless we use that science, technology. I call it the STEAM system: science, technology, engineering, analytics, and medicine, and employ that into the running of sport. And make the whole system very data driven. Data is something which gives a huge amount of impetus into and makes us make accountable and more and better decisions. So I think the use of data in all these areas of identifying talent, managing talent will be should be employed. And I think if we are able to build this process right from grassroots level sport to elite sport, that's where change will be triggered. And this is a long journey which we have to employ. It's not that post COVID will get over and suddenly out with 100 gold medals will come out of her vending machines. That's just wishful thinking. It's a process which will have to be taken forward. A lot of hard work will have to go in. A lot of determination will have to come in. Our sports organizations will have to become much more efficient. Governance is something which has ailed Indian sport for decades. And until and unless we make strong decisions, and until and unless we make committed decisions to improve the governance of Indian sport, things might not change, because governance has a huge impact on the way sport is run. There are many well-meaning people running Indian sport, and I have nothing against any individual. However, I think the whole governance angle is something there's a lot left to be desired, and I don't see that determination coming into play to really make those difficult changes, because obviously those changes will put people out of their comfort zones, and change is something which is always greeted with resistance. But until and unless meaningful change is not made in the whole governance piece, we will again struggle to match our aspirations. So there are lots of pieces of the puzzle to make India a sporting powerhouse, and that needs a lot of work, a lot of clear foresight, and committed and persistent um, work that needs to go on for a period of time.
Excellent, sir. There are a lot of positive policy recommendations that came from your last answer, and very elaborately and comprehensively. I have two more questions actually, and then I'll hand over to Dr. Sekhar to take on. One is that, sir, you talked about the role of different stakeholders in the sports. What is the role? What can and should the former Indian sports stars do post COVID to revive and revamp India's sports?
Well, it really depends. I mean, where athletes are placed, I think everybody, athletes post their sporting career have gotten into various different elements. Some are involved in coaching, some are involved in business, some are involved um, in administration of sport. So it really depends on what area you're your question is referring to. However, I think it is also, I think what the biggest impact for sport has been, what not many people are talking about, are, the larger ecosystem which works for Indian sport. People who are working in the stadiums, for example, people who look after the various stadiums, the grounds people. They are all out of jobs. Clubs which are the small clubs which are the feeder system of the whole sporting ecosystem in India, are absolutely struggling at this moment to survive, because all sporting action is pretty much halted, and there is absolutely no income coming to this whole ecosystem which surrounds Indian sport. So this is a certainly an area of grave concern, because we don't want the whole sporting ecosystem and one of the big important pillars of the whole sporting ecosystem to suddenly collapse because of the current situation. And I think the athlete community, and also the former athletes can perhaps come together to help this community out in whatever ways they can, because they are a very important element to the whole structure of Indian sport.
Thank you, sir. My final question, though legend Abhinav Bindra don't talk much, does talk much, but I have been able to successfully taking on a lot of points, a lot of recommendations from you, sir. Sir, digital media has risen and brought a complete different direction to the world in making great influence. Now, do you have any suggestions how sport bodies or institutions or policymakers can use or make good use of digital media that can benefit sports?
I think, of course, there is a whole element of broadcasting of through digital means. I think that is one medium which, for certain, is being explored for sure. But I think what one interesting perspective, what I would like to bring in, is the whole um, e-gaming part of sport. Gaming is becoming very huge across the world, but sports organizations can really start a digital version of their sport. And I'm not a big fan of the whole gaming process, but you know that is the reality of our present day generation, that the kids love video games, and there's a huge community which the gaming world enjoys. So I think each sport can really have an e-sport version, which can be a way to introduce the young population to a certain sport. I know a few sports. For example, sailing. The World Sailing Body has started a gaming version of the sport of sailing, and they conduct a gaming world championship. What they are trying to achieve out of this whole process is that a certain percentage of these gamers actually get so involved in this sport and fall in love with that particular sport that they actually start playing that sport in reality. And that is something which I think more sporting bodies across the world, whether we like it or we do not like it, we will be left with no choice but to embrace this whole changing dynamic in the world of sport and the whole gaming element of sport. So I think it is a matter, rather than resisting the whole scenario, it is a matter of using the current situation and the current environment to your actual advantage, and to the actual advantage of your sport, for the promotion of your sport.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, any last message, or what would be your wish for India in these sports in future? So,
I think I covered a few points already, but I think I would just like to see Indians as a population, as a people, just going out there and playing sport. More and more people should just play sport for the sheer joy of play of playing a sport. I think that, to me, is the most important thing. And in case you don't end up playing sport, just go out there and watch sport. I think even just going out there watching sport, even at the basic level, club level, district level, as an Indian, you are making a great contribution to the whole sporting ecosystem. You're making a great contribution to athletes. you are really respecting their art and craft by just going out there and watching sport. And that will be also an important contribution to the whole development of sport in India. So first preference is go out there and play a sport, and if you can't go out there and play a sport, just go out there and watch a sport.
Thank you so much, viewers. This was Padma Bhushan Abhinav Bindra, the sporting legend of India, who actually made India real proud and a real son of this soil. So I want to, I would be really happy, sir, to be with us. If you can be with us for a couple of more minutes. We also have our another sports legend, Mr. Rajesh N. We will interact with him. Dr. Sekhar, over to you.
Thank you. Now, in the sports promotion, there is a little more on the concept side. What we have generally formed in the new dimension is many smart cities coming, many ways of development coming. So one of the things which we have proposed, which is generally accepted, is to create as many sports smart cities. That means the sports smart cities will be almost in every state, a very big state at least, and they will concentrate hugely on many things, including manufacturing. Today, in my own presentation, which will come in a few minutes' time, we are ourselves exporting almost 300 to 400 million dollars, which is very small, even though in terms of value it is some 3,000, 4,000 crores. But it can be expanded to two more zeros on the right side. Because sports goods are sports goods, which will be required by anybody. Second thing with respect to sports is, previously people are confusing sports as a PT teacher. PT teacher only knows to say right, left, and then that becomes a sports. Today we need sports directors in every school. Imagine the number of people who will be employed. Imagine the employment potential which will come because of sports. These have to be highlighted in government. In the new policy of the government, this has not been, some mention has been made, but they have not really addressed it, because there will be a huge employment potential and huge, in terms of the health of a student, it will go up. Because today, no use, doing the normal PT for the young children. And we are, as you all said, we are 400 to 500 million people, youngsters, sitting to take benefit. So with that, what I will do is, I have a little presentation on uh,
It should be below somewhere, sir.
I think it is up.
Yeah, it's there also.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the topic of today: enhance sports in making India a Olympic powerhouse for national reincarnation. Now, this general slide is generally about India. I will not take care of it. Now, origin of sports. A lot of sports have been so-called discovered, invented, or fine-tuned in India. India has fared very poor in Olympics. We have the Renaissance man sitting in front. In fact, he is the only gold medalist India has got. So it is slightly the thing. We have had, non gold medal in a few areas. Even though this is one field, in all fields we are on top, average. Okay. Here we are much, 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 much below average. With 1.3 billion people, we totally had 28 medals when USA has got 2,800 medals, which only one fourth of our population. So that needs to be something which has to be addressed. We were something good in cricket long, long back. We did it for a few years, but there again we lost. And till Abhinav Bindra came, and then he is going to restart. At the same time, we should know the sports cannot come by itself. Sports has to come by the trainers, the stadiums, and the way we encourage them. There's some justice has been started, at least. We have got the world largest cricket stadium we are proud of. And we have stadiums, but even though stadiums to the people ratio, we are far beyond any good country. And sports industry also has to be seen in a holistic mission. The topmost is sports medicine, healthcare, and we didn't talk to Abhinav Bindra on this. Abhinav Bindra is taking a huge role in this healthcare for sports industry, for which we would like to call him again much later. And others are how do we take care? And yoga becomes a very, very important part of sports, of course, because that is something to do with health. And if you see in reality, in USA, yoga is an $80 billion industry. Okay, huge, huge, huge. Okay. And second, as I said, is sports manufacturing, where we have to go a long way. We are hardly in the 300, $400 million exports. And there we have to make for India and for exports. And there, our suggestion has been to create a lot of sports smart cities. Sports smart cities means one smart city with everything and many sports hubs. Every campuses will be an hub which will take care of this thing. Like I said, in yoga is a part of sports which we consider, and it has got a huge industry, huge employment potential. Now, as you know, many in India are training yoga to people abroad by sitting in India, and they are all doing pretty well. And that is also again a huge, because every one of this we are also seeing with the employment potential, especially with COVID. Things have come down, so we need to take care of it. So I rushed through because we have our second now, to give a little background on the second speaker, Rajesh. Rajesh has been a wonderful sportsman. He is a skydiving specialist, and he is from Navy. Very proud. He's a CDR. He's a commander, which is a very good post in Navy. And he has done. We will see if time permits to show some of the videos also, where he has done skydiving even in Antarctica, and he has brought a lot of glory, as much as Abhinav must have brought from actual Olympics in his field. So I would like Rajesh to first say a few things about his own personal achievement and his growth, and then come directly to how his field can take up, and how post-COVID, he's also a marathon specialist. He does a lot of marathon in all the major cities in India. How all this thing can take India into a different dimension. Rajesh, if you can do all this thing in 10 minutes, your own video can be played, which I'm sure people would like to see. And your pictures also, Akram can show it as you are talking, when you're talking.
Thank you, Dr. Sekhar and Mr. Akram, for getting me on board this webinar. I mean, I'm really proud to co-chair, be alongside Abhinav in talking about sports and its future in India. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a ex-military officer, and I was always affiliated with sports. Right from my childhood, my father used to take me to a tennis club and have me play tennis, and I've done some little bit of short distance races. Subsequently, I joined the military, and the military groomed me into what I am. So skydiving was a passion, and yes, talking about skydiving passion, skydiving has multiple dimension in presenting itself. It's an adventure activity. We call it mother of all adventures, and it's a professional activity for military people. It's a sports activity for sports skydivers, and it's a recreational activity for everybody else. Unfortunately, in India, skydiving didn't take off for quite some times until 2000, and subsequently the awareness grew, and a lot of ex-military people and other sports skydivers started talking about skydiving and then their achievements, and skydiving has taken some kind of a baby step in India. As of my achievements in skydiving, I'm a skydiving instructor, and probably one of the first instructors under the United States Parachute Association and Australian Parachute Association, where the skills taught are at a different level. Like, so we were taught to teach like the Westerner, unlike the military. And I did train a lot of people in the military, army, and the navy, as far as training is concerned. I also put forward a sporting team, 4 of us, and just a brief on skydiving as a sport. It's like athletics. You have 4-way, 8-way, 10-way speed formation, and artistic discipline, accuracy. So there are about 14 to 16 disciplines in the world of skydiving sport. This year, 2020, we had the Mondial, which is the World Championship, where about 60 to 70 countries take part in all these 14 to 16 disciplines as much as they can. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the Mondial is postponed to next year, same time, but they're going to call it Mondial 2020. So we put up a 4-way. 4-way is the fastest skydiving sporting discipline, and 4 skydivers fall together and work in tandem to get their formations made. So skydiving is also a fundamental sport which gives a lot of basic forms of basic character, teamwork, spirit de corps, of course, confidence in your teammate, and as a sport, it's very demanding. You need a lot of flexibility, strength, and you should be able to visualize. My personal achievement in skydiving is, like, I've done skydiving in Antarctica, which is a world record. I don't think any other man has done such an activity. A world record training skydive. People have just gone and jumped alone. They have jumped with a wingsuit, but no one has done a training. That is, we took a student from India and made her do the first skydive of her life in Antarctica, just close to South Pole. Other than that, I've got a lot of national records, many registered, few not registered. I've done a tandem 4-way, have done first wingsuit jump, a base jump. It's an acronym: building, antenna, span, and earth. Short distance jump out of a building or a cliff or a balloon or a span or a bridge. I'm also a scuba diver. I'm a diver by profession in the military, other than being a submariner. And I've done sports scuba diving as well. Nothing much as a sport, but as majorly as a recreation and a little bit of learning. Nowadays, I do marathons. I work with a big marathon company in EB Sports, and we work in close association with Sports Authority of India, Athletic Federation, and we started developing Indian middle distance to long distance running athletes. We conduct a lot of marathons for the Athletic Federation of India, do all the Olympics trials, and give our feedback on training various athletes on the middle and the long distance athletics part of it. So having said that, skydiving is also looking at making its way into the Olympics in the form of an indoor skydiving setup, which we call it a wind tunnel. So it's likely that it's going to be introduced in the Tokyo Olympics, and I mean, the discussion will be in the Tokyo Olympics, and it will come as a experimental sport in the next one, and then probably a competitive sport in the next Olympics. That's how it features in the Olympics. Indoor skydiving is as thrill or as fun as outdoor skydiving. Only thing is, indoor skydiving is more visible to the audience. We need viewership. What we do in the sky has to be caught on a camera and has to be transmitted wired, which was, the technology was not that advanced a decade ago. But now, with the technology advancement, we've got skydiving to the ground. The wind tunnel throws air at free fall speed, and you can literally do all the sporting which skydiving has got in the wind tunnel. And now with rules and with a lot of advanced judging protocols, it's making its way into the Olympics because the players have gone up and the countries taking up indoor skydiving has gone up because you need a plane, you need a runway, you need a lot of time to skydive actually. But in the indoor skydiving setup, you can just do it in 1 hour. You know, it's like 1 hour of indoor skydiving is equal to 60 jumps, and an athlete takes about 4 to 5 days to do 60 jumps, but he can just do it in 1 hour in a indoor setup. So yeah, in India, skydiving has a long way to go. So we are trying to bring in indoor skydiving, which will be more accessible to all the Indians, and with Mr. Dr. Sekhar's help in smart cities, we can propose putting a wind tunnel, and we can train all the aspirants. You know, we can at least do talent hunting, and it can be a pleasure. It can be an adventure. It can be for therapeutic reasons. It can be for competitive reasons. At least here we can make a beginning, and probably we can look at putting a few athletes in the Olympics. So do I have time for?
Yeah, Rajesh, you can even explain these pictures. These
So
are all
this is the way you train a young athlete who aspires to be a skydiver. It's called accelerated free fall. In short, it's called AFF. So this is me and another instructor of mine. We are doing an AFF in Kochi over the Tevra. So this is a tandem jump. A person who wants to experience free fall and does not want to go through the process of learning, one-time jump, bucket list, just to seek the thrill. Experienced instructor attaches the student in a harness and has him closely tied to his body at a 4-point contact, and does all the free fall and the maneuvering in the sky, and the passenger just goes and has fun. You know? So this is a competitive jump. It's called accuracy, in which you have a 16 centimeter disc, and you have a parachute which is designed to control and to fly slow, and then you land with a pointer on your heel to touch the target. Something like shooting. So the grouping and the lesser the score, the winner you are. So that's me flying an accuracy parachute. This is a wingsuit which helps you fly and not fall. So it converts the vertical speed into a forward motion, reduces the free fall speed, and gives you more air time. It was in the beginning it was introduced for just fun flyers, but later on it became a competitive sport too. We have artistic maneuvers in wingsuit flying, and we have endurance maneuvers in wingsuit flying. Next.
I think, yeah, that's it. I'm looking for more photos.
Thank you,
video is
Sekhar sir, and thank you, Mr. Akram.
That Antarctic. Can we show, Akram?
Yeah, we have a wonderful video.
Yeah, this is a.
Yeah, you can describe it, sir.
Yeah, this is a skydive which was done in Antarctica way back in 2006, and we did the jump post an accident which happened in Antarctica. So we didn't get much support from the skydiving fraternity, as they were just saying it's fatal. But we were adventure driven and did our own research for over 6 months, me and my buddy instructor, and it was a real tough jump because the temperature on the ground was about minus 18 degrees. Temperatures at 14,000 feet was about minus 32 degrees. And in free fall, you experience something called a wind chill. So wind chill can go up to minus 60 to minus 70 degrees. So we got the design of the dress, the parachute, and the training was modified, and it was a great jump. And those days, even we don't have the sports cameras which could capture it. We captured it with the normal digital video tape camera, and that's it. I mean, the rest is for you to see it. It's one of the biggest challenges I've ever had in my life, but it went through like like a dream. and we are safe sitting here.
Wonderful.
So my buddy is giving a correction, and we are going to. This is at about 14,000 feet. So we are all wearing three layers of clothes: inner layer, thermal layer, and the windproof layer. The entire it's called white continent. Antarctica is called white continent. It's like it's fully ice, and Antarctica, as we all know, it's on land. You know, the South Pole is approximately at about 12,000 plus feet, and where we jumped from, we had a head start of about 3,400 feet. So air is rare, closer to the ozone layer. Free fall speeds are different. It was a real challenge. Equipment manufacturers wouldn't guarantee the functionality of the equipment because of sheer temperature. And you're all aware, exposure to skin, few seconds and the skin is dead. So a lot of challenges. We got the students safely to the ground. And anyway, thanks for the good opportunity. I mean, I'd like to see the video again and again. And I hope the audience see it. If there is anything they want to know, they can contact me through Dr. Sekhar, or directly you can contact me.
Okay. Like what post COVID, sir? How do you see that you want to promote these sports in India? And since when, from when can we resume all these activities?
No, we are looking to resuming the activity by October, November, at the most. It's happening in the world. Nowhere in the world skydiving is stopped. It's happening in US. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in Europe. It's happening everywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure this adventure sports, since at least they have started the gymkhana and yoga centers as per yesterday's guideline. Something has to start because sports cannot be stopped. You know, because this is something which is personal, which is something which is to do with health. This is something to do with entertainment. There's something to do with competition, and there's something where there is huge money also. See, money portion may come little later because of the the fact that there has to be an audience. The audience has to be in proper mindset, and because of that, yes, sports will get 50% off because there is nobody so much to pay. Otherwise, all the IPL and all had brought India a different type of glory. Even a cricket hater has to agree that it brought the type of money which people could spend. We also know that yes, we are, as much as we may call ourselves a very poor country, we are as much as a sign of prosperity. So many of the IPLs were one of the best in the world in terms of the money which is coming. Even though money is not the main thing which we should talk, but money has to play a role for sports to be hugely multiplied. That's why whatever little I talked about sports smart city and all that, where the money will spin by the value it is creating. If more smart city comes, there will be sports companies coming in. They have to sponsor. When they have to sponsor, they will employ somebody. When they employ somebody, there will be more people to use it, and that cycle will, it's like the old time engine. It will start taking its own time, but it'll be pretty quick. But if we expect that things will go by itself, we will not reach anywhere. Everybody has to have a pressure on the government, on the system, on the families. Because of this, many families may not like their children. They will go back to the typical Indian system in which they never wanted a son or daughter to be in sports, because sports was the most neglected item. But that has changed in the last 30 years. At least the parents want the children to be in sports. In the last 10 years, when things were really bubbling up and they wanted them, even sports as a career, this has come as a dampener. And that will change. And I'm sure, for a concluding remark, has played a good value. And since the topic is on Olympics, I'm sure, since all of us are done along with other countries, maybe when the Renaissance takes place, India can have a faster growth, because there India should not lose. Because even other Olympic-based countries, they all are also resting. So from there, when we start, we may have some 40% gain if we, do well. And I'm sure that, sports will play a good role. Olympics will play a good role. And as far as Rajesh is concerned, adventure spirits should play even a greater role, because the more the adventure, the more the mind spirit, especially after coming from COVID, the adventuresome, even a normal life has become adventure. So Rajesh should take a lesson to all that what is real adventure and take things to a good level. Thank you. With that, we will conclude today's thing. Akram?
Thank you. Rajesh sir, any final comment or I'll conclude? Okay, thank you so much, Rajesh sir, for sharing your view. Viewers, wonderful discussion by two sporting's legend, Mr. Rajesh N, and we had Padma Bhushan Abhinav Bindra. I think a lot of points are discussed, nothing to discuss more, but I think post-COVID, we have an opportunity as big as the challenge that is in front of us. Thank you. If you like our discussion, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch us. Keep watching the Policy Times.
Thank you, sir.